Okay, so the last lesson we were combining functions by adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. Today we're also going to combine two functions, but this time we're going to be doing compositions. Okay, so when we're given a function f and a function g, the composite function f of g is defined as this. Whenever you see this symbol, this notation, this is how you say it. This means f of g. That's how it's said. And it's defined as this. You put g of x inside of the function f of x. Okay? And I will show you an example of what this looks like. It's like a box inside of a box. Okay? So let's look at an example. So I'm going to put the function g into f. Okay? So the function f is right here. It looks like this. 5x minus 3, right? That's the function f. But guys, instead of writing an x, I'm going to put g inside of it. And g is right here, x minus 1. So I'm putting g inside of f. And this is called a composition. And then from here, we're just going to simplify. So 5 times x is 5x. 5 times negative 1 is negative 5. And then just bring down the minus 3. Yep, and then we'll simplify it to 5x minus 8. We combine like terms. So we combine our constants. So that's your final answer. Now, for the next example, I'm going to put h inside of g. So I'm going to write g nice and big, x minus 1. That's the g equation. And I'm going to erase the x, and in its place, I'm going to put the h equation. So h is right here. I'm going to put that inside. X cubed plus 8. So I put h inside of the g function. Okay? And now we'll evaluate it. This just says x cubed plus 8 minus 1. Well, that's just 7. So x cubed plus 7. And that's your final answer. All right. Let's try another example. Okay, so this time I'm going to plug g into the h equation. So I'm going to write the h equation nice and big, x cubed plus 8. And instead of x, I'm going to put g inside of there. I'm going to substitute in g, and g is x minus 1, so we put that inside of here. So x minus 1. Okay, so guys, we're going to have to do a lot of algebra to simplify this, okay? So what I'm going to do, this cubed means I want it 3 times. That means it's going to be x minus 1 times x minus 1 times x minus 1 3 times plus 8. That's what this, when you expand it, it's written like that. And now I'm going to FOIL. So I'll just start with the front. X times x is x squared. X times negative 1 is negative x. Negative 1 times x is negative x. Negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. So that's what those two multiplied were. And then I'll bring down the rest of my problem. And I'm not done multiplying. I'll use a different color so we can distinguish what's happening. I'm going to do x squared times this x, and that makes it an x cubed. And before I do this, guys, what's negative x minus x? Negative 2x. So let me just simplify that real quick. I'm just going to combine these two and make it a negative 2x. Okay. Next, I'm going to do x squared times the negative 1, which will make it a negative x squared. And then we're going to do the next part. I'll do it in light blue. Next, I'm going to do negative 2x times x, which will be negative 2x squared. And then I'll do negative 2x times negative 1, which will make a positive 2x. Remember, don't forget this negative sign right here. All right, now I'm going to do my last number. I have 1 times x is just x, and 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. And then don't forget the plus 8 on the end. Yep, it's very long, but we're going to combine like terms to make it a little shorter. So x cubed is by itself. Then I have negative x and negative 2x squared. Negative x squared and negative 2x squared. What are these together? Yep, negative 3x squared. 3x, this will become 3x because 2x plus x is 3x. And then these two numbers, negative 1 plus 8, that'll be a 7. So this is your final answer. Okay, any questions on this? All right, I'm going to do another example with you guys. Now I'm going to do f inside of g. So I'm going to put g real big. I have x minus 1. And instead of x, what do I replace it with? 5x minus 3. 5x minus 3. Well, what does that become? There we go. Negative 3 minus 1 is just negative 4. Okay, so now notice, guys, these examples all had an x right here. Oh, I didn't mean to scribble that. All of these have an x right here. Now I'm going to do some examples that have a number there, okay? So let's move on to another example. Notice, guys, I don't have x anymore. I have a 2 in there. So I'm going to still do the same process. I'm going to put f inside of g. So let's do that. I'm going to write x, or my g function, nice and big. So I have x minus 1. And instead of an x, I'm going to put in the function f. So f is 5x. Let me use a different color. 5x minus 3. And guys, what number do I plug in for the x? 2. So this will be 5. I'll put in a 2 there, minus 3 minus 1. So 5 times 2 is 10, minus 3, minus 1 more. That's just 6. Does that make sense, guys? We did the same exact thing, only I just plugged in a 2. Now, I want to show you another way. If you're comfortable with that way, great. I'm going to also show you another way. And that is, I can put, and you can choose whichever method you like. You may put this 2 inside of f. So let's evaluate 2 when I plug in to this function. So f, this is the f equation. I'm going to plug in a 2 there. What do I get? 10 minus 3, that's 7. Now I'm going to plug this answer into g. Yep. So I'm going to write down the g equation, which is right here. So I have x minus 1, but instead of an x, I'm going to plug in the answer that I just got, which is 7. And what's 7 minus 1? 6. So you get the same answer. So you can either plug in f and put it into g, then put in the 2, or you can just work backwards. 2 into f, that answer into g. Okay, let's do another example. Which method did you guys like? The second one? The first one? Okay, we can do either or. I'm going to do it this way first. I'm going to put negative 6 into h. What would that give me? So h is down here. That's x cubed plus 8. I'm going to erase the x, and what do I put in there? Negative 6. Okay, so guys, what is negative 6 times negative 6? 36, and then I have to multiply it by -6 again. Yes, -216. And I'm going to add 8 to it. And what would this give me? -208. Perfect. So I'm going to put this answer into F. So the F equation is 5x minus 3. I'm going to put this in there. So I'm going to put -208. So guys, what is this? -1040? Subtract 3, it would be -1043. So that's my answer. Do you guys want to see it the other way? Yes? Yep. Okay. So I'm going to, once you have that copied, I'm going to erase this and do it the other way. So I'm going to go ahead and erase this. Okay. So let's do it the other way. I'm going to put H inside of F. So I'm going to write F nice and big. That's 5x minus 3. I'm going to erase this. I'm going to put F inside. I'm sorry, G inside. What letter was it? H. I'm going to put H inside. It says H here. So I'm going to put x cubed plus 8. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and substitute and put -6 in there. Erase this x, put in -6. -6. Okay, so I'm going to highlight as we go. So what was -6 cubed? What did we say that was? -216. Oh, why is that so big? Okay, -216. I'm going to bring everything else down. And -216 plus 8, that was -208. Then you multiply it by 5, we got -1040. And this is -1043. So you can do it either way. All right, next. Okay, so guys, that is the end of compositions. That is the end. I do want to talk about something that was on your homework from last week. So I have this up here. I believe this is letter G. So flip over to the second page. This is letter G. And I wanted to talk about it a little bit. Okay, so we're doing function operations. It gives us the function f and it gives us the function g. And they want us to divide it, okay? So they put f of g divided by g of x, and they want to know what this is. So guys, I'm just going to go ahead and set up my division problem. They want f of x divided by g of x. So f of x is 4x minus 3, and they want to divide it by g of x, which is x squared minus 6x minus 16. Okay? So what you guys would have to do, didn't we say we cannot divide by 0? I want to know what numbers of x would give me 0. Okay, so I want to figure out what x values in my denominator would make this denominator go to 0. So what you would have to do is factor. Okay, so I'm going to do a little review on factoring. So let me do this one with you. I want two numbers that will multiply to give me -16, yet add together to give me -6. Can y'all think of numbers? I want them to multiply to -16, but add to -6. Yep, -8 and 2. So -8 times 2 will give me -16, but if you add them together, it'll give you -6. So that is how we're going to rewrite this denominator. I'm going to write this as 4x minus 3, and my denominator will be x minus 8 and x plus 2. Okay, this is the same thing as this. It's just a different format. Okay, if you wanted to, you could multiply this out again, and you'll get the exact same thing. Okay, so this is called factoring. So now it's pretty easy to tell what x values would give you 0. If I plugged in an 8 right here, what's 8 minus 8? And 0 times this is just 0. So we don't want 8 X cannot be 8, because if you plug in an 8, the denominator will equal 0, and we don't want that. Okay, what other number can X not be? -2, because if you plug in a -2 on this one, -2 plus 2 will give you 0, and 0 times anything is 0. So these are the two numbers that X cannot be, because your denominator cannot be 0. Okay, so that means this was your answer. We did f of x over g of x, and you know that x can't be these two numbers. Okay, I'm going to do one more example with you so that this sinks in. Okay, so here's another one. I want to divide f of x divided by g of x. I'm going to have x plus 5 divided by x squared plus 7x plus 10. So again, guys, let's figure out what my denominators can be rewritten as. I need two numbers that multiply to 10, but add to 7. Yep, 5 and 2. So this is how I'll rewrite it. My denominator will be x plus 5 and x plus 2. So what can x not be? Yep, -5 and -2, because if you plug those in, the denominator will be 0. So this would be your answer. Also, guys, let's always simplify. Do you see what cancels out? That cancels with that. So your final answer would just be 1 over x plus 2, but x cannot be -5 or a -2. Okay, simplified. You have to simplify it. Okay, just because you cross this out, it still cannot be -5. Okay, so this is your answer. Anything divided by itself is 1. That's why there's a 1 here. Any questions? All right, so I'm going to let you guys finish that practice. You can do those bottom 2 questions. And then all around the room, there's a whole bunch of practice questions that you're going to do on scratch paper. Okay?